Hey YouTube family, this is Shalika with I Am Still Mom. Checking in today. Have not spoke to you guys in a while, but some recent events have kind of sparked my little fire, so to speak, to get y'all, I don't know, just to have a conversation. So I don't know how many of you guys watch reality shows, or more specifically Married to Medicine. If you don't watch it, this is a show about people in the medical community. These are prominent doctors and their wives, and in some cases these doctors are women. Most notably, the female gynecologist, or the gynecologist rather, on the show are female. Dr. Simone Whitmore and Dr. Jackie, I can't think of her name. Okay, so that said, today's video is about Dr. Jackie. And I wanted to address the whole infertility conversation that was brought up on her show. So just a little background. Dr. Jackie herself has, her husband have not conceived children due to the fact that she had cancer about 15 years ago, and breast cancer. And so she has, in addition to her work that she does as an OBGYN, she also goes around and she empowers women. And so I think the particular episode, there was an event that she was hosting and she was talking about her journey, and one of her castmates, who, her name is Buffie, her husband is a doctor. I think he's a psychologist rather. They have also been struggling with fertility and getting pregnant over the past, I think they've been struggling for about 10-15 years, something to that effect. And in this episode, she, in her speech, Dr. Jackie noted, pretty much called this lady out and said, yeah, Buffy, you understand, you're infertile. Now, as someone who has struggled over the past 4 or 5 years to get and stay pregnant, I was very triggered by that. And when the episode came out last week, I was not going to address it, but it was kind of digging at me a little bit. So then the follow-up episode comes on last night, and they're on a couples trip, and Buffy notes that Dr. Jackie's commentary about her fertility hurt her feelings. And if I wasn't already triggered by the fact that she said it, I was even more triggered at the fact that instead of owning that, even though her intentions may have not been malice or malicious, the fact that you hurt this woman using a very sensitive place in her life, you just blowed it off like, I apologize and I'm not apologizing again. That really, y'all excuse my edges, they ain't laid today, girl. That really triggered me because of the fact that in my own experience, I have witnessed the medical community be really nonchalant about fertility and miscarriages and things of that nature. Now, I'm not going to say all my experiences have been this way, but I will say that there's a good bit of them that have been kind of, yeah, that happened. Okay, you can try again. Or, yeah, you don't have a good egg reserve. So if you're going to get pregnant, you need to go ahead and do it. It's like, not that we don't want the truth, but there's a way to say things. And I feel like in the medical community, especially OBGYNs, there's this bedside manner that lacks compassion, and I don't understand it. Where I live, I've had 50-50. I've had, a really great OBGYN, and honestly, it was more so the midwives than the OBGYN that was great. And then I've had the experience of a not so great OBGYN, to the point where, after my first miscarriage, I decided to switch OBs because the promises that were, given in the beginning were not upheld. But I said all that to say, like, I'm looking at Dr. Jackie, and this isn't the first time she's been insensitive. Even though this lady is not her patient, it's still a medical matter. I've seen her, and one of my friends on Facebook brought this up too. She, and when she was on her whole fit kick, she pretty much was telling one of her patients that she's too big. Like, and subconsciously, I'm not even gonna lie, I held that in my brain for a long time because I am a heavier woman. I am medically obese, and like, getting pregnant for me is already going to be a challenge because of that. And I'm working on it. Past 2 weeks haven't been so great, but I'm working on it, and I'm doing what I can to change that. But I don't think doctors realize the psychological part of that. But anyway, we're not talking about weight, we're talking about fertility and infertility. So the fact that Dr. Jackie brought this up in a space where, in her own forum, even if I played devil's advocate and said, okay, you were given an example to empower women, there's also a such thing as getting a person's permission to share details of their life, regardless of whether they have shared it before. Because yes, she may have shared it on the show, but also at that time, she's sharing it in a place of getting to know these women, not going to an event and just airing out all her stuff. That's, and to think that was okay, not only that was okay to do, but you're mad at this woman because she expressed to you that it wasn't okay. I gotta call you to the carpet on that. Like, I don't understand for the life of me, and this is just a human flaw, and I'm gonna be honest, I've been a part of it, a proponent of it myself, where someone says, you hurt me and this is how, and because your intentions were innocent, you tell them, you pretty much dismiss them as if their feelings don't matter. I've seen this with doctors. I've seen this with churches. But it's like, you're in a place of authority to tell me where I'm wrong. I'm not eating well. I'm not doing what it takes to make sure that I conceive, as if I don't have enough emotional trauma behind it as it is. And then when I say, I appreciate you saying that hurt, well, not that you said it hurt, the way you said it hurt, it's like, oh, well, you need to get over it because it's the truth. I'm sorry, guys, but just because you're telling someone the truth does not give you the right or the authority to hurt them. Okay, that is Buffy's truth, but it didn't give Dr. Jackie the right to hurt her. If you've gone through infertility yourself, you know that it's very sensitive. Everybody doesn't understand. And when you are going through it, people look at you like you're some type of alien. I've been very vocal about my fertility issues, and I don't claim infertility just because I don't want that word to hold me down. But if I were to look at it clinically, okay, this what I am going through is textbook infertility, but at the same time, textbook or not, it still is an emotional situation that is super painful if not dealt with delicately. I've gone to 2 fertility doctors this year. The first one, love him to death, very sweet gentleman, and had, in my opinion, great bedside manner, but I don't think he was as honest as he could have been about, all my test results and what they meant. Mind you, as women, we need to be advocates for our own health, because we can't always expect the doctor to break it down for us. But if we make that a demand from the jump, then that could be worked out. But I was so disappointed. I was like, dang. And I remember I have a friend who had Dr. Jackie as her OB when she was pregnant, and she had all these great things to say about her. But I'm gonna be honest, it left a taste in my mouth. I was like, dang. I always said if I were to move back to Atlanta, I always said I would want to have our child at Northside because it's such a good hospital. But I definitely wouldn't enlist Dr. Jackie as my OB. Any pregnancy I have going forward is going to be considered high risk. I don't need you to damage me emotionally because you're right. I just don't understand people. I appreciated how Dr. Simone dealt with Buffy a few episodes ago when she had her, she went with her to a mammogram because she had a family history, of cancer, and she just wanted somebody, let me backtrack. So she had a lump. Dr. Simone is her doctor, and she was the one that examined her, and she went with her when she recommended her go get a mammogram. She actually went with her, and she went as a friend, not as Dr. Simone. Like, I thought that was really dope. And it just shows a doctor having compassion and not having to be the smartest person in the room. If you're a doctor, especially if you're an OB, we get it. You're smart. You're very intelligent. But just like have some type of bedside manner, because that's what's going to set you apart. From my experiences, I have to say the doctors and nurses who've left the greatest impact on me in my journey are the ones that had a heart. And the ones that affected me negatively are the ones who did not. I remember after my second loss, I was experiencing, I was bleeding. I was supposed to bleed. That's what you do after you have a baby. But I was bleeding a lot, and there was an odor that I wasn't familiar with, so I wanted to make sure that nothing was infected. I hadn't been, having sex or anything, but I just was really, really, really concerned. And so, the OB that I saw, because I was seeing rotating OBs, she was she lacked compassion, and I couldn't understand it because you're a woman. First of all, the first thing you say to me is, you're depressed. Obviously. I just lost my baby 10 days ago. Obviously, I'm depressed. And had the nerve to put that in my aftercare instructions. So that's strike one. Strike two, instead of having compassion for the fact that my whole world was ripped apart. I had a baby that had to die because I anatomically could not carry him. Okay? And you tell me about my weight. No shit, Sherlock. Am I not blaming myself enough? But because you're the doctor and you're the smartest one in the room, you felt that was okay to say. It was not. But my better experience was when I was at the hospital, and it was either the chaplain or one of the nurses. It was the chaplain, one of the first chaplains I saw, cried. She couldn't get herself together. She was so concerned about me and so sorry that I had to deliver my baby early, and that he didn't survive because of it. That made me feel like, dang, this lady cares. What's going on? What has happened to the pulse of the doctor, more specifically the OBGYN, where being right is more important than being loving and being caring and being a human? It costs nothing to be nice. It costs you nothing. You're still gonna get your 6-figure salary if you decide to be nice to a patient one day. You're still gonna get it. It costs you more to be rude and nasty, because there's people like me who advocate for other women like me who are going to call you out. My OB now, he's great in the sense that he's giving me a plan. But as far as a whole lot of hope, I'll be honest and say I haven't gotten that. The fertility doctors have been, you know, more hopeful and more supportive, and I appreciate that. But, you know, I appreciated. So going back to the fertility doctor, the very first one that I saw, you know, I didn't like how he handled things with me. So I did a consult with another one, and I loved, again, she had a plan and she was compassionate to my situation. Very respectful. Went above and beyond, because it's not the fertility doctor's job to test me really to figure out why I'm having pains. That's more my OB, but she did her due diligence, and when she did all she could, she referred me back to my OB and my PCP. For those who don't know, I'm sorry. OB is obstetrician, PCP, primary care provider. Just figured I'd throw that out there. But, you know, she went above and beyond for me. And that alone, if I was trying to consider whether to stick with her or go back to the other guy, I'm sticking with her. You know, I was like, dang, do you also, you know, do OB-GYN, you know, patients? And she's like, no, she had done that years ago, but now she's just in the business of helping people get pregnant. And I'm like, dog, I wish I could, like, work with you throughout the whole process. And then the other layer to this, you know, is how Black women have the highest mortality rates in birth. And I'm one of those people where my opinions about race I keep to myself, because one, I don't debate very well, and two, what I feel ain't everybody's business as it relates to my Blackness. I can be aware of social injustices, but not feel pressed to speak about it all the time, because a lot of times there's a lot of things that I'm not informed on, and I'm just not one of those people who, you know, like to run off at the mouth over stuff that I don't have enough information to make a definitive judgment one way or the other. I can talk about my experiences, but when I think of, you know, the maternity mortality rates for women of color, you know, it scares me even more, because I'm like, here I am. I'm a heavier woman. I've already had fertility challenges. I've already experienced telling my doctor everything I know about my body and what's going on, and getting the most nonchalant answers about it. I've been going through that since I was like, I think 21. I used to have a pain in my pelvis on the left side, on the right side. The same, matter of fact, it has come back in the more recent years. You know, and I'd seen different doctors, and, you know, none of them could really tell me what was wrong. And then I remember going to the ER one time, and they just was like, oh, here's a shot of penicillin, go home. No test, no nothing. I remember having to have I had an abnormal pap, and I had to have a colposcopy is what they call when they put the scope in your cervix. So I had to have a colposcopy and a biopsy because they had to remove the abnormal cells so they could test them. All of this is done at that time, at least in 2004. You were awake and you weren't given any type of local anesthesia. Okay. So you're pretty much cutting off a piece of my cervix while I'm wide awake. And I had a woman OB come and do the procedure. The male nurse was so nice. He knew how terrified I was. My best friend was in the lobby. She couldn't come back there with me. And the woman was like, "Oh, you're a woman. This should be nothing to you." Trick. Are you high? But because I'm a woman, and I dare to say, based on the statistics that I've read and heard about, because I'm a black woman, I should just be able to take pain and it just should be fine, right? I have no clue what logic that is or where the compassion is and all of that. But I said all of that to say, because I am 26, almost 27 minutes in, I really need for the medical community to tighten up, especially OBGYNs. Like, you are helping to bring life into this world. And when you are dealing with a woman who has experienced the loss of life as she goes on a journey to extend and expand her family, it can't just be business as usual for you. There has to be some part of you that is human enough to care about that woman laying in those stirrups. She's not asking you to be Superman or Superwoman. She's asking you to care about her situation. I don't know if Dr. Jackie's going to see this. I don't know if she's going to care. But if you want to share this with her, please, 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 can you advise her to have compassion? She likes to be the most knowledgeable one in the room. I'm pretty sure there's some classes on it. Shoot, I could probably stand to take them myself. But as women, we have got to start speaking up and advocating for ourselves. And we have got to start just advocating for ourselves. God has given us the ability to carry life in our stomach, not our stomach, in our wombs for 9 months, 40 weeks, however you want to put it. And He has given us a certain amount of delicacy that the world needs to understand and see. So with that being said, I am here picking up my ham for the holiday. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your families, and we will talk soon. Goodbye.